list.
Okay, yeah. So what I'm trying to get a sense here is what you know about the internet and how it all works. Like, and then
Okay.
I can get to servers, right?
Like you
So
like it would there be like some interface that connects with the backend that database that and then retrieves it and then brings it back onto the screen? Like on first load?
yeah, like how is it gonna on first load? How am I gonna find a list of women to match with?
Like the your phone would like would send a request to a backend database with the list.
And okay, so you're right. So we have a backend. So you're saying this phone has to talk to the backend to get the list,
Yeah.
okay? And then what? The backend has like a server or a database that's talking to.
Okay. Yes. Like the is the backend not hosted on a database?
Oh, it's just saying the backend and database are the same thing.
Is it not?
Well, we could talk about it.
I mean, like the database is the backend, is
Hmm?
it not? Okay, yeah,
No,
yeah. It's a
now
part of the
you're gonna learn
backend.
what. Okay, this is what you say.
Did that even make sense?
Okay,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
how
Help me
how,
pass
how
this. Oh, I failed.
okay, how is it gonna know where the backend
Yo,
is?
thank Angelo Lee.
And Angelo, thank you.
Angelo, man.
Angelo.
Jeez.
Sorry, bro. I'm cooked. This is our 8 hour. We're 8 hours and 5 minutes streaming, but I'm not even cooked. Okay, how is the backend or how's this front end gonna talk to the server? How is it gonna know where the server is and talk to it?
Via API connection?
API connection.
Yeah. I mean, is that not how? That's how
Okay,
I
there's
kind of
different
do
there's
it.
different layers. This is the
Now,
OSI
now I'm
models.
just making up stuff.
There's OSI models, right? There's like APIs is like on the application layer. Well, I mean HTTP is on the application layer. Good OSI model.
Dang. Immediately fired by coding Jesus. Oh man.
So this is important. This
I
is
don't think that guy would even hire me, dude.
Guys, this is important right here. The OSI model. This is how computers talk to each other. Is it actually used? I think it's used. Well, it's used to understand. So what's the physical layer? Physical layer is like actually the wires and stuff
Yeah, the
and
computer.
and routers. Okay, so like basically, how does it connect to the backend? Okay, first off, where's the backend? Usually some server.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you don't even need to know where the server is,
Yeah.
right? So how does it connect to it? It connects via the internet at a high level,
Okay.
right? So how the internet works is we can think about it as this is me and this is the backend.
Yeah.
We can think about it like a mailing system, and you use the IP address to in order to figure out like everyone has a unique IP address. Client IP.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
It's like mail. It's like a mailing thing, and then there's like a server IP, right? Yeah, yeah. This OSI model is a little bit outdated because some of the portions mix a bit. But so remember what the IP address is?
Yeah. It's just like your address at home type thing.
Yeah, like this.
Just like your what do you call it? Like your unique identifier, so people know who's
Yeah,
like where you're communicating.
everyone.
essentially.
It's essentially like a unique address to you.
Yeah.
Like it's literally an address,
Yeah.
IP address, right? So, when you have an IP address, this is what happens. Like in the internet is built with like we'll just at simple level just a bunch of routers connected to other routers, connected to other routers, right? And then eventually, like routers are how traffic is sent across the internet. Like you've heard of routers before,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So essentially, pretend this is my client. I talk to my router, which is in your thing, and then that router's job is to route it to eventually the server. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So how is this router gonna know where the server is? I mean, like essentially what you're gonna do is you're gonna send a request, and the request is gonna have like a source and destination. You're gonna source, and then you have a destination. And there's tons of different algorithms for like actually routing it. You can do like Dijkstra's, you can do like Bellman Ford, but essentially it's like
dang, this is
a
why you
yeah,
this is why you need lead code, eh?
yeah. It's like essentially
Now I see it. Now I see
what
it
it
a
needs to
little
do
bit.
is it needs to route your traffic to the server. So kind of how it does that is it sends it to the different, and different servers could be connected to other servers like this, right? This could be connected here.
Right.
And not every server knows about the other ones, but there should be a path from your router to the other one. Like you might route it to this router, and then it might not know, so you could try like a different router.
Right.
But
Dang.
essentially, if you know the source and IP address, all you're doing is you pass in the data here, right? With the source and IP. This is like very high level abstraction too. For each router, you're given this data. It's usually encrypted because you don't want people to spy on it. But essentially, what it's doing is like all I need to do is for each router, like route this data and like route it to the right destination. So you basically ask the neighbors, and I don't actually know how these network algorithms work, but it's pretty much the goal is to get it to the server. But I think what it does is it just like asks its neighbors, do you know where the destination IP is? If you know where it is, I'll route it to you. They route here. Oh, you know where the destination IP is? Yeah, I'll route it here. You know where the destination IP is? Right here. And then he finally gets to this guy,
That's sick.
right? That's how these
That's crazy.
that's how these communicate over the internet.
It's wild how fast that is too, though.
It's so fast.
Like I don't know where these guys live, but dang, we're talking to them in real time and it's running that.
Okay, the physical layer is like this thing that I'm talking about. That's what we care about.
Yeah.
The network layer is the IP address stuff that we're talking about. It's like how they do routing, right? The session and transport layer, these can kind of be combined, but it essentially what this protocol does, like they all build on top of each other, right? What the session, and Paul, tell me if I'm cooked, if coding Jesus would fire me right on the spot. But what the session and transport layer does is it helps because like essentially when we're sending data, we don't want to send the data all in one go to. We usually break it up into small pieces and send them over the wire.
Right.
And they usually even take like tons of different directions there, right? Like different packets be sent out in like it's like you take a big package and you chop it up into a bunch and you just send it over and it finds its way to the source. But basically,
Dang, they even go in different paths.
yeah, and then basically
That's so wild.
at the source we build up all the packets to and then like build it back up to what it is.
That's
Right?
crazy.
So that allows us to like reduce the bandwidth when we're doing it, because like if you
yeah,
just
because
send
the
a
wire's only so thick and stuff like that, right?
yeah, and like what if it fails too, right?
Yeah, that too.
Because like what if you don't get this packet, then I only need to resend that one packet, right?
Dang.
I'll teach him that later.
Dude, how, dude.
But like okay,
Who, dude? So I was like hesitant to like build the LLMs from scratch, but now I'm learning this. It's all right. James is excited about it. I'll listen.
this is making sense. But the,
Dude,
like
it's making super
this
cool
is
sense,
that's
man.
we just went into how the internet works. So that's like
Yeah.
session layer is how it's built, or like the protocol for actually making sure data gets to the source. And then what's it called? Then yeah, I don't really know what the presentation layer is, but the application layer is HTTP and other application level code. That's like when you start thinking about APIs, they're usually HTTP APIs. And you could build APIs
That's why
in
it's
other
called
ways.
application layer and application programming interface.
Yeah,
Kind of makes sense.
yeah, and then like HTTP is its own thing, and I
Yeah,
should have
there's
probably
like a
went this-
request library, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So what it essentially does is it builds HTTP requests, but when you send a HTTP request under the hood, it like goes down the layer. So usually what it does is okay at the client level, right? The client works from the application down here, and then when the server receives the request, it works from the physical layer up. Does that make sense? So when I send an HTTP request, I need to break it down into packets. Then I need to break it down to like the physical layer and actually send it. And then on this side, when I get like packets, I need to build it up back into the HTTP request, which is like the final thing.
That's crazy.
But yeah, that's how basically that's the internet. That's how you connect to a server,
Yeah.
right? And most of the time, and I'll just say one more thing about the internet. is like we're not searching by IP addresses and stuff. We're not looking like, oh, give me data from 1, 2, 3. Like we never know that. It's not human readable.
Right.
So that's why people buy domain names. You buy w1.google.com or something,
Right.
and then it maps to that. So this is called
Oh,
our
yeah.
DNS server. So what it does is you pretty much give it a google.com, and then it pretty much figures you out the IP, and then you can make a request to that IP. It's like a global directory of like website names to
Dang. Why do you have to
IP
pay for
address.
that?
Because
Like-
this is a service too.
Okay.
This is a service too.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah, we're running out of IPv, but they said that like 9 years ago
Yo,
when I was
Paul,
still
do
in
you
college.
own your own domain name? Do you own jamesperalta.com?
Do I own James? No.
Yeah, you should own that.
Okay, so what's Django? What's Django?
That's crazy. Dude, I own johnperalta.com.
Does that make sense so far? You have any questions on that?
No.
You think that's like important stuff because when you're building your company, you need to kind of know how to
one of my first things, like I'm definitely gonna be releasing a website soon, and I think it's gonna be like, I think it is going to be like TypeScript,
I see.
and then I don't know like how I'm gonna use it. Like I don't know enough. Like someone's building the website for me.
Okay. Hopefully Code Jesus doesn't roast me, but okay, what's Django? Django helps you build HTTP servers. It's essentially runs in the application layer. HTTP is like a whole thing that we can get deep into, but it's just essentially the protocol that you use in order to talk to other servers.
Yeah, I saw Django. You could even set up like users, login. Like it's pretty deep.
Yeah. Okay, so the backend is essentially just a server, right? What's a server? It's just a strong ass computer, essentially.
Yeah.
Like you could just think about it as a lab, like a regular
PC.
like PC, but it's
Okay,
like
yeah.
optimized with
But
server
it's
components.
it's designed to serve other PCs.
Yeah, it has different like strengths than
Dang.
like it's not just a regular. So what's a server, right? It's a regular PC. So if I stored my database in the server, what does that mean? That means I would be storing it in my file system.
Yeah, like
right?
it would have the memory. It would have like
Yeah. So like my database will be using the resources of my server, right? But what if the server goes down? Then I lose my database. Like what if it crashes and it gets destroyed?
Yeah. So
Right.
you somehow have to distribute your database.
So actually a
or just, like,
database
make copies.
database is its own component, and it's also running on servers as well.
Yeah.
Like database is usually separate from the actual server, right? Because like pretend, okay, this is another reason why. Pretend we have like 1 million people using this server, right? That server's load is going to be so high. So a lot of the time what we do is we like horizontally scale the servers and make sure the servers, and like we'll send 50% of people to this one and 50% of people to the other one. So that reduces the load on one server.
Yeah.
So if I kept my database right here, then like I'm gonna have to maintain, like, how am I gonna, if I talk to this server, yo Alpha, what's good? Like if I keep my database within my server, like the database copies are gonna be different then, and I had to sync them, and that's the synchronization issue at that
Right.
point, right?
Right.
And then what if I have like grow to 10 million? I need to add another server. I need to synchronize between 3 servers.
Yeah.
So what these do is like they pull the database layer outside, like this, and database becomes its own server, and you could scale those independently the way whatever you want, like vertically or horizontally. Vertical scaling pretty much just means throwing a stronger server at it.
Right.
So like if I had 1 million, if my user base goes from 1 million to 10 million, I just throw like a crazier CPU on it, or like more RAM, or like whatever. But like there's limits to that.
You just build a bunch.
You just build a
have
bunch and then
of
you just
servers.
distribute it out,
Yeah.
right?
I
And then
see.
now these servers, they handle the request, then they talk to the database, right? Now the database has a ton of load too, and then you have to figure out how to scale that and stuff as well. But that's kind of like how it works.
Yeah.
like because the main goal is we want to be able to scale all the pieces of our components horizontally,
Yeah.
right? That's why you kind of like separate those layers.
Holy crap. Oh, man.
And you don't want to mix in the code. Imagine I need to mix in like my HTTP code with my database, like running my database on the thing.
Yeah.
Yo, what's good?
Back for the system design.
So what is Django? Django essentially helps you build web servers. They do this.
Right.
So like let's talk about HTTP, or like yeah, basically you define you define servers in, or yeah, you define HTTP servers using Django. And essentially at a high level, Django is pretty much define request handlers. And like this is with anything, like if you use Express. So what's an Express handler? Right? So request handlers is exactly what it means. It handles requests. What's the job of the server? It gets a request and return a response, right?
Yeah.
You're supposed to get a request is like, oh, find me a list of women to match with, and it returns the response, which is the women to match with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So like you need to understand the request and response lifecycle.
We building Tinder? Nah, he's just explaining Django to me, and then basically we're building like a training program for myself to learn how to build like a AI hedge fund.
Yeah. Okay, we have a request and response, right? So what's the job of the server? It's gonna get request and it's gonna return response.
Yeah.
So the server gets a request and response, right? So in Django you pretty much you're crazy, man. The server, yo Codex, thank you. So on the request handler, what you build basically request handlers that like get requests and return responses. So at the start you get request, do some logic, build return response, parse request, build and return response. So what does that mean? When I parse the request, right? What is somebody going to attach in my request? Probably like the user ID, like who am I and stuff,
Yeah.
right? And then I'll parse that request to figure out who that person is, and that will help me build my query for the database, like select star for user ID.
Right.
And then after I build that, I just need to return that response back to the user in like a JSON format, and then it just displays the user. It's as simple as that. So what Django does is you just define request handlers, and then you can just parse requests, do some logic, and then return, and then build and return response. That's all they do.
And then you use HTML and CSS to like style it, and then JavaScript to
like
kind of
HTML.
show the web.
That's all on the client side.
Oh, okay.
Like that's all browser related stuff.
Okay.
But yeah. That's simple. That's the simple request response.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Went ham into that. Okay, let's go back.
Let's go back.
Let's go back to the.